So today I'm going to talk about what I worked on last quarter. My project was about understanding undergo crowds behavior in lost and found settings. Students take same routes every day. They go to classes, gym, and restaurants. Also, they lose items quite often. According to our university's Lost and Found Facebook group, there were 66 finding requests just this quarter. And then throughout the year, there were 346 requests, which is like one request per day. So we were interested in utilizing students' existing routes and mobility pattern and asked them to look for lost items. We had three research questions in this project. First one is, what are the notification techniques we can use to present task opportunities to undergo crowds? Previous work showed that push-based notification is more effective than pull-based approach in mobile crowdsourcing systems. Also, in on-the-go settings, pull-based approach will cause helpers to miss most of the task opportunities because by the time they check the task list, they might have already passed the task region. And then the second research question is, what is the on-the-go crowd's spatial temporal behavior? And then the last research question is, what are the factors influence on-the-go crowds helping behavior? Um, in our need findings and previous work, it showed that common requests for finding lost items was either they know exactly where they lost item, most likely indoors, or they had a vague idea where they might have lost item. It's more likely a broader outdoor region. So in our study, we focus on scenarios where a request lost her items outdoor, and then they somehow know where they might have lost the item. We conducted a preliminary study, and based on our findings, we will set a radius of region of interest as 40 meters in on-the-go settings, assuming that a potential helper will be able to cover entire region if she looks for items while walking. Um, However, one problem with existing geofence techniques was it only ping people who are 80 meters or 100 meters away from the center of geofence, no matter how small a radius was set. So in order to send notification at the right region, it was important for us to design new techniques. So what pre-tracking does is that as soon as a user is approaching our region of interest, we start a fine-grained monitoring, and based on the context, we decide whether or not to ping her. Another notification technique is early notification um, that allows undergo crowds to search in the areas where it was intended by the system. Because it's common that people walk while they use their cell phones. So we want to take into account their interaction times and then humans' walking rate um, and ping people ahead of time. So by doing so, we try to avoid the dead spots or missing areas of the region we want to cover. So this is our app request. We recruited 15 participants, and each participant had to participate for 2 weeks. The experiment location was somewhere near Fort or between Fort and Garrett. Those items include keyring, card holder, glove, and water bottle. We chose all these items based on the existing requests on um, Facebook Lost and Found group. And default search time was 30 seconds, and Based on that, we also reduced the radius of target region of interest to 20 meters so that people could cover the entire region within their search time. And we had a within subject with two conditions. First condition was at border condition, where we ping people right at the border of the search region. And second condition was early notification condition. We ping people ahead of time before the border where we want people to start searching. These were some of the items that participants were supposed to find. And we are also interested in iBeacon trilateration and visualization tool because we were wondering that how useful beacons are to triangulate people's location in the on-the-go settings to complement GPS data to help us better understand the on-the-go crowd's behavior. So beacon settings, we use SIG transmit power as 4 dBm. Advertising interval was 100 meters, 100 milliseconds, and we used 14 beacons to cover 34 by 8 meters of region. These were the beacon setups. And we had 3 hypotheses for this experiment. First one is people in the early notification condition will be more closer to the point where they were supposed to start searching than people in at border condition. Then the second hypothesis was people in early notification will have better coverage, which means less dead spots than people in at border condition. And then the last one was beacon data will help us to complement GPS data to better understand their behavior. Participants' age range was from 21 to 34. There were 7 females, 8 males. We requested 8 items, 6 were found. It took 678 minutes in average to find an item. The quickest search took only 26 minutes, and then the longest took more than 1,000 minutes. Number of notifications sent per item was 3.67. Number of help per item was 2.33. And the average distance from where they received notification to where they started help was 22 meters. And time it took was 21 seconds. It also showed that the notification wasn't that disruptive, and 30 seconds weren't too long to search for an item, and 7 people even kept searching after 30 seconds. And they also said that they will be willing to help look for a lost item for 74 seconds in average. These were some of the pictures taken by our participants. We asked them to either take a picture or bring it to our lab. This was the summary of our items. Looks good. From here, we could see that during the weekend, there were less searches than during the week, which is not that surprising because students don't have classes during the weekend, and then less people come to the campus. And for the hourly pattern, there were more searches before and after lunchtime, and at night there was less searches. The results are consistent with the previous results from location-based crowdsourcing paper. And this is some of our visualization of timeline for notification, help, and where they found item. So for the first hypothesis, we could see that at the app border condition, people walked past around 20 meters from where they were supposed to start searching, And in the early notification, they were 0.42 meters before where they were supposed to search. So, and then t-test showed that um, the difference was significant. Um, from our interview, it showed that most of people walk while they're interact with the notification, but for some participants, they stopped, read, and then started searching because they were afraid that uh, they might miss the region to cover, and it's troublesome for them to walk back. And for the coverage, we visualized the 30 seconds of footprints for each search. And most of people searched along their way. And one person did turn back and searched. We asked these questions during the post-study interview. We showed them the animation of their searches, for instance, like this. And then we also asked them how they interacted with the notification or what were their search strategies. We divided into two visualization categories. First one was when they're heading north. As you can see that at border condition, when they're heading north, this is where they were supposed to start searching, but we could see that there are quite a few dead spots here. Probably it's because they started searching from here. However, in the early notification condition, more regions were covered. There were less dead spots at the beginning of the searches. And this is when they're heading south. In the early, similar to the heading north, many of the regions, the areas were well covered by the early notification condition. However, in the at border condition, we couldn't see this significant difference. We dig into the data, and then it showed that 3 out of 5 searches were discarded in this visualization because there were outliers, and then 1 of 2 searches was from the participants who usually stop and read the notification. That's why this region was well recovered. And for the coverage, people said that they usually search on their way and then they're unwilling to walk back. And the coverage also coverage was also affected by how people think of the lost item location was. Some people thought that the lost item location will be more likely to be on the lawn side where the large grass area was. But for the other people, they thought that it will be more likely on the sidewalk. We visualized the beacon, and then we compared beacon and then the GPS data. For instance, this one is the beacon data we received, and this one is the GPS data. Our results show that we could only capture 50% of the beacon data, and then among them, only 50% were accurate, half of them were accurate. And during the interview, we also asked what are the factors affecting their health, similar to previous findings in TaskRabbit and Geekwalk. People said that time availability and then the timing of the task, weather condition were the main reasons. However, we found that whether or not they're with others also affected them, and their existing regular routes, and whether or not they have to take a detour or having to walk back was a distinguished factor that only that we discovered in the on-the-go settings. For instance, one people said that most of the time, if I'm rushing for class and they don't even check the phone. And for weather condition affected both the willingness to search and then the time and location where they search. This one participant said that it was raining, so she didn't want to go to the grass area because it was muddy, and most people search time was less when it was cold, snowy, or raining outside. Our findings show that some people, when they're with others, they turned it into some kind of social activity or game like type. They started searching together and had fun. On the other hand, some people didn't feel like doing it when they're with other friends. Um, their existing regular routes affected their searches a lot because they either have to take a detour or had to walk back. There's some of the limitations in our study. We chose a relatively small region, which was 20 by 20, 20 meters of radius of a region. So in the future, as as the system scales, we'd like to cover a much larger region. And another limitation of the study was the lack of rewards or reputation systems. So some people were less motivated to do so. In the future, we'd like to have a real world deployment of this application so that we have more users, which means we'll be able to cover um, larger regions on campus. And as the task region gets larger, we're also interested in studying different kind of routing algorithms to ensure the coverage. Also, lastly, we're also interested in understanding motivations in on-the-go crowdsourcing systems. How are they differ from existing mobile on-demand workforces or general crowdsourcing systems online?